Welcome to the Create Today podcast. I'm your host, Karen Stanley, and this show is all about how you can create the life that you want one day at a time. And today my host is Nicole McTheny. She's a dear friend of mine. I've known her for a long time, and she's had such a great career in marketing and PR, and recently started her own business. And it's been such an incredible journey that she didn't really plan on. And I want her to share it with you. So if you're thinking about starting your own business, or you've always had this thing about maybe you don't want to work for somebody, and maybe you could get a little bit of a guidebook from her. And I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much for being here, Nicole.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So anytime. So tell us how you first started. How did this all, you always wanted to be in marketing your whole life, or in PR? And
Nope, none of that.
I didn't think so.
Interesting story. So I grew up in a small town in Colorado, and I was in my church choir as a little kid. And we had auditions for Hark the Herald Angel, and I landed the part of Hark.
Aw, of course
and,
you did.
And I was young, probably 7, 8 years old at the time. And my uncle was in the audience. And after the play that night, I went over to my uncle, and he said to me, you know, you should really be a TV news journalist. And I thought, what a random thing to say, right? And he sort of qualified that statement. He said, you really like performing and like the entertainment piece of it. And he knew that this would be a good field for me for whatever reason. And going through school, I fell in love with writing. And so his comment sort of always just sort of rang in the back of my mind, where I thought, maybe I should be a TV news reporter. And so I went through school, middle school, high school, college, just saying, I'm going to be a TV news reporter. And that there was never a question. Wow. And as I went through school, I was leaning into, I really do like the sort of performance piece of it. And I loved the storytelling piece of it. And I loved the writing piece of it. And to me, it was never about being on TV. It was about, you know, educating and inspiring and informing people. And so I did it after I graduated from college, and I got my first job the month after I graduated college in a really small town, and I was a TV news anchor and reporter.
What town was it?
Interestingly, it was that same town that I grew up in.
No way.
Yes. So, you know, we moved to Texas, where you and I met, went to middle school, high school, college, back to Grand Junction, Colorado for my first job as the weekend anchor at the CBS affiliate. And if you ask my husband if you ever watched the movie Anchorman, this was me, Veronica Corningstone. Like, he's like, I don't think I would have dated you. And I'm like, that's fair. You know,
kind of a big deal.
Yeah. We'll watch those VHS tapes one day. But anyway, so I was a journalist for 8 years, and just kind of traveling from market to market, larger, landed in Austin, back in Austin, Texas. Loved it. Yeah, I loved it. And I started as the weekend morning reporter and ended my tenure there as the evening anchor. But it sort of ran its course for me. And it was a natural progression into PR, because you have, you know, you're thinking like a journalist because you are a journalist. And then the PR side of it is you're trying to get the attention of journalists. So having been one, it was just a natural progression for me. And
a lot of news is PR. I mean, you really want to get people's attention to listen to it, to watch it.
Absolutely.
I mean, you really have to be good at the writing and the way you're displaying it, right?
Absolutely.
Did something happen to where you said, I'm done with journalism?
Yes. It became, which is interesting today. This is 2003. So this is 20 years ago.
20 years.
It was before social media, but for whatever reason, I could sense that it was becoming about me voicing my opinion versus me delivering the facts in an unbiased way. And I could tell even 20 years ago, I was being pushed into my perspective, my opinion, to sort of draw out some belief in our audience or some conclusion that maybe was or wasn't there. And I just fundamentally had a problem with that. And I was grateful for my schooling, because my schooling was very old school. It was like Walter Cronkite, we're here to deliver the facts. You shouldn't know if I'm a Democrat or a Republican or a Christian or an atheist. That doesn't play into how you report the news. So it shouldn't. And it does now, and there's a whole other podcast on that, but
literally 10 hours we could talk 10 about hours. That. It's horrible.
But even 20 years ago, Karen, I was feeling this, and I'm so grateful that I got out of it, because that would be a fundamental challenge for me that I wouldn't have been able to be successful.
And I'm sure you do as well, but I know dozens of people who've left the media for that exact reason.
It's a tough business.
Couple years. Yeah.
It's a tough business. But it was so fulfilling for me. It was this, I set out to do this as a little kid, not even knowing what this was.
I love that.
It was sort of written in my heart and in my mind. I did it. I loved it. I got out on my terms. I wasn't too old or too wrinkly or, the next hottest girl coming up, like kicking me out of my job, because that happens.
It does.
It's just my terms. And I left, and I leaned into the strengths that I had established over the course of those years, not allowing myself to think, what else would I do? This is all I know how to do. How can I possibly do anything else? I got to stay here. I'm stuck. Right. And so that opened this door to this pathway of, PR, and PR is so connected to marketing. I'm not classically trained in marketing. I'm not classically trained in PR, but a lot of it is very instinctive and intuitive and good storytelling and listening to the voice of the reporter, the consumer, whomever you're trying to, connect with. But I've done some marketing, some community affairs, some PR, I've been the spokesperson for organizations. I've just kind of run the gamut, and I've had an incredible career because I made the decision that this isn't right for me. I can sense that I want to get myself out of this, and I know that there's something else that I can do. There's a lot of skills that I have learned that I can apply in a different way.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you consciously take inventory of the skills that you have, or what you really enjoy doing, or did you just kind of fall into a job that got you started?
No, I had to consciously take inventory, because there was that small voice. We know her, right? That inner voice that's like, you can't do this. And it's hard to sometimes conquer that inner voice. Still struggle with that every day.
I prefer inner bitch, personally.
I wasn't sure if it was that kind of podcast.
You can say whatever you want. She's a bitch. We won't play the kid for the kids.
I had to overcome that self-doubt of, wait, can I do something else? Wait, and as you look back, hindsight's 2020. There's a reason that's such a popular phrase, but my first job in PR was with a woman who was sort of classically trained to be PR, right? Like she went through school to be a public relations person, and she owned an agency, and she was looking for someone to help her who was someone who had been a journalist. And I applaud her for that perspective. And so the two of us together made for a very strong combination for the clients that we served. And it was a wonderful blessing for me to be supported by this woman who could kind of teach me, there are some things that you do and don't do when you're the PR person, right? But she allowed me to bring that journalistic perspective, that sort of boots on the ground, I've been where they are, I know what they need kind of thing. And it really strengthened me and built up my confidence in that first job after being a journalist. Really empowered me to believe that I can do this. And it was an agency, so we were repping all kinds of clients, everything from, this cool company that made t-shirts to like an online schooling education platform to a green developer, so once the sort of the art of PR, you're like, I can do this, I can do anything. And then you get in your next job and you're like, yeah, I can do the marketing. I can run the comms, and you just keep taking on more because you have that confidence and you silence that inner bitch.
Yeah. And you can only silence it by just doing it.
That's 100%.
Right. You have to just take the leap. You don't have any evidence per se that you can do PR per se at that point. But again, you did. They're so intertwined, those two industries, because you're the one who's looking at the PR, the press releases and the stories and the things that come over your desk. As a journalist, you're deciding which ones you're going to do.
That's right.
And which ones you're going to run with, right?
That's right.
So you're both on the same team. So if you're behind that, then you know what a journalist wants to see. So actually it's brilliant of her to even think of that.
So brilliant.
Yeah.
So brilliant. And it truly was a pivotal point in my career because I was changing careers. And then it was this sort of constant changing of careers after that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because in one organization, I'd be strictly PR, and then I'd get another job where I would be like market development. And what the hell does that mean? I don't know, but let's do it. I can do it,
Wow.
And then the next job, it would be leading all of the marketing, including PR. And the next job, it would be, community relations. And it was just that continued confidence, but the struggle was always there. It was never easy, but it's like leaning into the hard, right? Yes. Like you want the hard.
Yes.
You want the hard.
Otherwise you can't grow. You wouldn't have gotten
For
any of those
sure.
other skills had you not started, done all those different jobs in those different capacities, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So good. What job led you to come back to Arizona or move here?
So I followed family. I didn't follow job.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that was another
your mom
thing.
And your sister both moved here, or just your sister?
My sister, and then my mom followed.
Your mom followed.
And I thought at this point I had gotten out of journalism, because journalism is kind of, you follow the job, you go where you can, you just sort of bounce around
Move
the country.
Wherever you get it. Yeah.
And that was another very courageous point in my career where I quit my job and I said, I don't want to be away from my family. My sister just had her niece, my niece, her daughter, my niece, and my sister didn't have her niece. That would be weird.
She had your baby? Wow, that's cool.
Again, another podcast.
Neat.
No, not Jerry Springer. My sister had her daughter.
Had a baby.
Yeah, and she had my nephew, and I came out to visit, and I just held my niece, and I was like, "This is where I need to be. Like, I can't not be here." And I knew that I could do it because I had done it. And so I quit. Awesome. And I drove the U-Haul across the country. And then here, right, I meet my husband and we have our kids. And it's like, that was the universe. I mean, totally. I say God, but that was like the universe bringing me here and to this life that I now live, which I'm absolutely in love with.
Incredible.
So it's crazy.
It is crazy. What's the last job you had before you started your own business?
So I was working at a company that it was a very purpose-driven company, and I loved the purpose, but I was increasingly not loving the culture. And I think that was sort of the pivotal moment where, when I look back on my life, have you seen the movie Slumdog Millionaire?
I don't think I have.
The premise of this movie is basically this guy gets on How to Be a Millionaire. Remember that show? Like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yes.
Where they ask you all the questions, and then if you answer all of them correctly, the last question, if you answer it correctly, you win $1 million. Right. So it was this kid from, I think, India, third world country, lived a very sort of poor life, gets on this show, and the entire show is like, he would be on the show, ask a question, and he would reflect back to a moment in his life where it led him to the answer for that question, right? Had no idea, right? He's just living his life. Then he makes it to this show, and every question, he's got a lived experience that he reflects on that is like, I know the answer to that question, and I'm certain of it because I lived it, right? I like to say that that's how I look back on my life, where I'm like, there are these sequences of lived experiences that I needed to go through to get me to this place where I made the leap. So that position in that job was one of those experiences where I needed a little bit of a nudge, and it wasn't a fun nudge. It was just, again, God saying to me, like, I'm putting all these things in your path and you haven't taken them yet. So I'm going to nudge you a little bit and you're going to take the leap. And I did. I had an exchange with, a boss's boss that wasn't fun. And it was sort of this juncture of crossing an ethical line and not being okay with me. The behavior wasn't okay. There's a lot that I can put up with at work. There's a lot of shit that happens at work, and it's okay. But this particular instance, I was like, you know what, this just isn't okay. And I've been thinking about doing this, and I'm going to make this change. And I felt so at peace about it. And so it was during the pandemic, and it was October 2020, and I quit with no job during the pandemic. Like I quit this comfy, and my husband's like popping the champagne bottle behind me because he was so excited for me because he had been telling me to do this all along. And it was great. It was amazing.
Well, I think that's something I just wanted to point out is that people might also be in a culture that's not, succinct with their own values. What you're saying is they don't have the same values as you do, and that's not okay.
It's
not for you to be in that. You can't thrive in that environment. Nobody can. But everybody just pretends to keep their jobs a lot of times. Right. But I think that if anybody's listening, something just does not sit right with my soul. This is not right. If something's not right happening in your job, maybe that's a reason. Maybe that's a little nudge. Maybe that's something that's maybe is from the universe or God. I think it's God. God made the universe.
Yeah, I agree.
So whichever one you want to call it or you believe, it's great. But I just think that's something just to point out where sometimes we don't realize what the nudge is.
That's right.
Sometimes it is misery.
Sometimes it is.
And we have to go be a little bit miserable enough to make a change that's going to just revolutionize your life and just make it, find your purpose, what you're really supposed to be doing.
And that's, again, back to Slumdog Millionaire. Like this poor kid went through absolute misery, but it's sort of all, again, when you look back, it's all for a reason. And this wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. This wasn't screw you, I'm out of here, right? And I would never advocate for that because we have to make smart decisions for ourselves and our families and put things in place and lay some groundwork and some foundation. But it did come down to, I'm not afraid to make this decision. I'm going toward something versus running from something.
Away. That's a really good point.
And that's a really important point because you're always going to have struggle. And sometimes you need to go through the hard. It's important to go through the hard. Yeah. And I'm grateful that I had a lot of that through my career because I wouldn't have been able to make that decision in that moment, in the perfect time for me, if I hadn't sort of persevered through some of that hard in the past. If I had just done the knee jerk, like, you're an idiot, I don't agree with you, this is crap, right? It wasn't the right time. And I had some learning to do, a lot of learning to do and a lot of growing up to do. But in that moment, it just clicked for me. And it was really poignant. And I knew that this was it. This was it. And it wasn't okay. It's never okay for someone to treat me the way that I was treated by this gentleman. But sometimes you respond differently where you're like, okay, I'm going to put on my big girl pants. I'm going to defend myself. It's going to be okay. Tomorrow's a new day, right? Kind of thing. And other times you're like, nope, I'm making a change.
It's God telling me.
It is.
It's just that, and then you realize that. You knew that.
I did know that.
Yeah, you knew.
I did know that.
Then what are the things that you put in place? You said it wasn't knee jerk. You're not running away. What are the things you did to plan on your escape?
Yeah, it was. So for me, I knew when I resigned, it was in October, and my boss at the time was a lovely man, and I really truly respected and enjoyed him, and he asked me if I could stay for 2 more months. So even that I felt like was a gift because I knew that I didn't have to stand for a certain type of behavior, and he knew that I wasn't going to stand for a certain type of behavior, but it gave me a little bit of runway to say, okay, this is really happening, right? So it wasn't as much of a rip off the Band-Aid. It was another gift. It was another, I think, gift from God saying, okay, I'm going to give you 2 more months of salary so you can get your shit together, right? Yeah. So I really leaned into relationships. The word networking to me is a little cringy. I don't love it. It feels fake. It's important, I guess, in spirit, but to me, it's about relationships. Yeah. And I started really leaning into, who do I know? Who do I know who's done this? You. I called you, right? I'm like, Karen, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm doing this. I think I called you even before I had the nudge.
I wish I could remember what day it was.
We had lunch.
Month. I don't remember.
We had lunch and you were like, you have to do it. This is amazing. So you just lean into those people who've walked that path before you, right? Because it's not going to be perfect. It's not always going to be easy. They can point things out that you didn't think through. Again, it was just this timing thing, but I had a very dear friend, still do, still a dear friend of mine, whose passion was to help women start their own businesses. Who knew?
Wow.
Like, she was doing digital marketing at the company where I was doing brand marketing. And I was like, I never knew this. She and I worked at the same company. And when I quit, she was like, well, I'm going to help you because this is my passion. So she was telling me about banks that I needed to connect with, banks that were really good for small businesses, like how to get my LLC started and if I wanted an LLC versus an S Corp, and just like all the things where I didn't know that stuff, you know, but again, these people were placed in my life at this time. I even had another colleague who also quit that job, who was a web developer, and she's this brilliant designer. And when she found out I quit, she was like, I'm designing your website. Like, it was just absolute divine intervention.
Absolutely.
But we all know web designers. We all know people who know how to set up LLCs. We all know someone who can connect us with a tax accountant, you know? So we lean into those relationships and we start talking to people and asking for advice, asking, how do I, you know, what did you learn? You're 5 years ahead of me. What are some of the things that you wish you had done differently? And really just sort of soaking that all in to start to create that path for yourself. And that's what I did.
And that's what I've found on my entrepreneur journey, that almost every single entrepreneur I know, they would love to help. They want you to have your own business. They want you to help. If you don't know anything about, like you're saying, web design, someone will know someone who's brilliant for you. And there's someone you know right now. If you think you don't know what to do, you don't know how to set it up, I don't even know what an LLC is, you know someone who knows.
You do.
Everybody knows someone who knows. You just need to reach out. Like, you can't be afraid. Make some phone calls, set up some lunches, you know, learn as much as you can, and you will be guided.
You will.
Every single time I don't know something, I'm just guided to somebody who helps me figure it out.
It's the truth. And this is why we create solid relationships at every step of the way. And we never take that for granted, because there are people that are going to come back into our lives for a reason at the right time. And you just don't, I know it sounds super cliche, but you just don't burn the bridges. Like, you just, like, and it's true. The entrepreneurial sort of ecosystem is the most supportive.
It is.
And I am of that ecosystem now. And I would absolutely bend over backwards and help anybody who, because now I have that knowledge, right? I know the banks to go to. I know the tax accountant. I know how much to set aside for taxes. I know the web designer, you know.
What? You've actually made a profit?
Again, another profit.
I haven't had to pay taxes yet. No, just kidding. So I love that. That is so true. And that's why you're here. That's why I wanted you to be here, so we could hear how the journey is. And then you make the leap, you set up shop, so to speak. You get your website, you get your bank accounts, you create the LLC, you do the paperwork. And then what happened?
And then, I remember this sort of defining moment where I worked with another colleague on like a logo. It was like silly, right? Like this silly little thing. And
done hundreds of them.
It's
actually kind of fun.
But mine was just like so crackerjack. I shared it with my husband, and he's just the best, and he's just so cute and so amazing. And he like shared it on his social media, like before I'd even like made this a thing.
Oh no.
And I'm like, well, and again, half of me was like, oh man, he like stole the thunder of my big reveal, you know, but the other half was like, how amazing that I have this partner and this spouse that is so excited for me and just has wanted me to do this literally since the day we met. So proud. And the company carries his last name because I am so proud of that. And it's just amazing, right? So he shared it on his social media, started getting some, you know, like the things, the people responding. And I shared on mine, LinkedIn, like made a change, super excited. And it was unbelievable. And this doesn't always happen, but for me, I had a few people reach out that I had sort of worked with or had built relationships with. And they were like, I need you for this. I need you for that. I need you for this. And so I gave myself some grace of so my last day officially with that job was in mid-December, and I wanted the holidays just to sort of exhale and just be with the girls and Sean. And, then December kind of turned into mid-January because you've got like the holiday sort of hangover kind of thing happening, right?
Indeed.
And I'm like, okay, February, I'm hitting the ground running. And when I did that, it was unbelievable. I mean, I had people wanting to hire me, wanting to do the work. And I had to lean into allowing people to show, like, this sounds strange, but allowing people to tell me what I'm good at. I knew what I was good at, but people were coming to me wanting to hire me. So I really wanted to lean into, man, I can actually make money doing this. Like, people think that I'm good at this. And it's almost like they'd been waiting for me to go out on my own so that they could engage me to do this.
100%.
And it was the most humbling, amazing, just rewarding experience. And it was all people that I thoroughly enjoyed and wanted to help promote their business or their agencies or whatever it was that I was helping. It was everyone from a PR company that's based in Israel that does PR for tech. And I knew the owner, and she wanted me to be one of her PR, sort of account executives for some of the clients. It was that all the way to this amazing couple here in town that was starting a little fitness industry, so I'm like doing some writing with them. So it just ran the gamut, and just, the business just came. I never had to really go solicit or go to like the Chamber of Commerce breakfast or the Small Business Association, like luncheon, and again, I'm not suggesting that that's the path for everyone, but it was another sign for me that, yeah, absolutely.
I did, however, go to the Gilbert Chamber one time, and I am not putting them down at all. I thought the event was lovely. But all I could think was, no, don't do that. That's too long. They did a meditation at the beginning. I was like, ooh, yeah, more than 5 minutes. You're losing people. You're still going, you're losing people. I've just had this whole commentary about, oh man, that would have been so great if they would have done this. That would have been so great. I'm like, I'm going to be in charge of these because these could be really great. It's my big bossy pants comes out and I can't shut her off. And I would assume you do the same thing.
I might.
I know
I'm a little bit bossy myself. Well, it's funny because I had this, when I was in the news business, there was a weather anchor when I was the news anchor, and we were friends. We're friends with everybody, right? Well, this weather anchor had gone out on his own and started this business. And when he saw that I had started my business, he reached out to me and was just like, okay, I'm going to announce you to all of the people. He lives in Corpus Christi, Texas. He's like, I'm announcing you to all the people, and you're our partner. And if we need PR, you're who we're going to. And it was just this beautiful realization of, I was proud of the relationships that I had built and the connections that I had made along the way to be able to call on people, not only for help, but to have people so confident in my ability that they would reach out to me and introduce me to people. And again, when you're an entrepreneur, like, you don't take that lightly. Like, your reputation is on the line when you're making a connection. And so many connections were made on my behalf. It was absolutely just amazing. Beautiful. And humbling. Yeah.
But I want people to hear that because it can happen for all of us. All of us have friends. All of us have our connections that we don't think that maybe are even that, important. They are. And people will come through for you. People want, people that love you, want to support you, will, send business your way every time. And you had a lot of, you didn't start out with like, oh, I've got 2-3 retainers from, 3 different companies, like ready to go. You didn't have anything.
Nothing.
Not anything set in stone, right?
Right. In fact, I remember one experience, I had done some pro bono work, and that's another thing I want to lean into because I did a lot of that and I would advocate for that. So anyway, I did some pro bono work, and this group that I had done some pro bono work introduced me to this other woman she'd written this book. She was a really well-known physician. She'd written this book and she wanted some PR on this book. So she calls me. It's like my first ever, like client
sales call.
Like I'm sweating, right? Yeah. I've got my big girl voice on, and she's like, well, I'd love a proposal. What do you think? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like asking her some questions, hang up the phone. I'm like, Sean, I got to write a proposal for this lady. Like, I don't even know how to do that. And he's like, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Sean, the cheerleader,
yeah.
Like, it's going to be great.
I don't either, but go baby, go.
Yeah. And so I write it and I give it to Sean, who's like in construction, right? Like, he's like, this is amazing. I'm like,
it's perfect. She's going to say yes. Yeah. Double the price.
Needless to say, I didn't get that job.
Thanks, Sean.
I blame Sean. No.
It's hilarious.
But it was, if that had happened 3 or 4 years before, I might have been devastated by that. But I realized it was just part of the learning. It was like, I didn't get that. Like I bombed that. I'm not going to do it that way that time. And the next one I did get. And so it's just this constant sort of state of learning. Yeah,
I agree. And also, it's also just a no is sometimes it's just not a great fit. It just wasn't going to be a good fit.
And I knew
it doesn't matter why. It's just, that's just God saying,
I knew that, Karen. I knew when I was on the call, I just thought, I don't know the first thing about this, really. I mean, I knew I knew sort of the art of PR and the art of good storytelling, but there was something just sort of in me where I didn't feel super excited about doing that work. I felt a little bit more drawn to, I could really use some money, right? And that's a thing. Like,
absolutely.
We're
You're
in
fully
business.
Capable of doing the PR for this woman and her book.
For sure. But I just wasn't really excited about it. Yeah. And had I gotten that, I'm sure I would have done a great job, but it also could have prevented me from taking the jobs that I was able to take that I was really excited about, and just aligning with the purpose-driven clients that I got to work with and alongside. Yeah. And that was important for me.
Your values. Mm-hmm. I love that. Right. And then back to faith. I know we were talking over lunch about how talk about your faith and how it really helped you through this whole is so uncertain. You never know if you're going to get a paycheck. You never really know if you're going to have a client tomorrow. Nobody does. Not really. Nothing is guaranteed. And I learned that in the last recession. It's like you think that you have a steady, stable job. There's no such thing. No. I don't care how long the company has been around, any company. Anybody could get laid off. Anybody can go out of business at any second, no matter what. And so that was a good thing for me to learn. It's like there's no people who think I'm crazy for leaving a steady job I've had for a long time, a great agency, and they are great. They're still great.
Yeah.
And they laid off tons and tons of people. They had to. They didn't have any choice. They didn't want to.
Right.
And I just felt like, again, that was the time for me to make that leap. So I just had faith. I just want you to speak to that and share that with people.
It's faith doesn't mean I've always been a Christian. I love me some Jesus, right? Like I just grew up in a Christian home, raising our girls in a Christian faith-based home. Doesn't mean there aren't struggles, far from it. I just sort of have I have the peace sometimes more than other times that there's a fire. We're either going to walk through the fire and come out unharmed, or the fire is going to consume us. And that's a thing, right? And my faith is this is the path that I'm on. And I think, it's not just like we lie down and say, I'm going to go wherever, there's some...
You don't sit on the couch and say, and not do anything. You have to take action.
100%. So we're responsible for our success in a lot of ways. But when those trials and tribulations come, when your client decides that they no longer need you and that's half of your income, you're walking through a fire. But my belief is that it's either going to consume me, and that might mean the business goes out of business and I go another path, or I'm going to walk through the fire and it's going to make me stronger. And in every instance, it made me stronger. And that's the faith for me, is that no matter what the outcome is, I know that I'm in God's hands. I know that I'm going to be okay. I can lean into that hard. There's a purpose for that hard. Again, it's like that movie. Everything that we do is leading up to something bigger than what we can imagine. And I've always kept that perspective. And so, there are days that are really hard, and you cry and you swear and you scream and you yell at your kids and you fight with your husband because it's so hard. But
yes,
when you keep that big picture and those values and your faith at the forefront, it's just been, the journey is what it's about. And it's been an incredible journey.
I love it. It's so important because when you start anything, someone said the other day, what was it exactly? You're going to have a lot of false starts.
Yeah.
It's like, John Maxwell says this, the circle of success, you try is number one. You just start, you just go, do it. And number two is fail.
Right.
It's the only way you learn then you learn, you improve, get in again. So you jump in again with the 2.0 version, because if you hadn't failed, you wouldn't know, you wouldn't have grown, you wouldn't have learned, you wouldn't have made it better. And then you wouldn't have succeeded on the second or third or fourth or fifth time, or sometimes 12 times, doesn't matter. But if you keep going, then you fail. That's how you learn. Have you found that to be true in your journey?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I call it failing forward. And I actually love, my dad always talked about failure in a positive way. And so I'm so grateful for that, because
brilliant.
There's a lot of failure in all of our lives, right? Like some is just more sort of impactful than others, but we're failing every day. And as long as we're failing forward and kind of learning and keeping ourselves in that cycle of learning, and it's not sort of sending us off the rails or out of that circle. That first proposal was a huge bomb, but I literally when I was sending it, I was like, I'm not going to get this business. I didn't do this the right way. I needed to be more
Don't know how to make a proposal.
Must have been my crappy logo. I'm kidding. But I knew, and it was a moment where, people might be like, well, that's not really failure, but it was a moment where I bombed a pitch. And
you still have zero clients.
Still had zero clients and zero income. And it was like, okay, I don't want that to happen again. So what did I do wrong? Right. And just take a minute to reflect and fail forward. And I'm still a big fan. In fact, I think admitting failure is the most confident thing that you can do. Whereas a lot of people think failure is, you're failing. How can you possibly have any confidence? I think it's the most confident thing that you can do. And I try to approach when you get new clients, or you're helping promote an industry that you don't know anything about, or people that you're not really sure. But maybe that inner bitch is saying, you should know this. Don't ask this question. You're going to sound stupid if you ask it. I just lean into that. And I'm like, this might be a completely ridiculous thing to ask, but I don't know. And so help me understand, and just leaning into that. You don't know everything. You got to ask a lot of questions. You're not the only one who doesn't know the answer. And you try to prevent the failure as much as you can. But then when you bomb and you fall flat on your face, like, that sucked. But being self-reflective and saying, how can I prevent that from happening again? It's been awesome. It's really actually cool. And again, these aren't monumental, colossal failures that I've experienced in my life, but maybe, there's probably some that would impact people where they'd be like, I can't believe that you did that. But it just wasn't as impactful for me because I embrace failure and I love it. And I just think it's the way that you grow and learn, exactly like what you said. And I got that from my dad at a very young age.
That's so smart. Like the Meet the Robinsons Disney movie. Just keep moving forward. I just love that. Were you methodical about this failing forward? I think so many people are just struck with fear. Fear of not knowing the answer, to your point. Fear of failing. Fear of somebody. It's not even fear of failing. It's fear of what everybody's going to think.
Yeah.
If you no longer have a business, if it didn't work, or you pivot and do something else. Right. How do you work with that? How did you overcome some of those feelings of that what are people going to think, or am I going to look stupid when I ask a question to a client? Am I ever going to get a client?
Yeah.
What can you walk us through some of the things that really helped you move through those and really that fail forward type of mentality help somebody who's really struggling with that? What would you say?
This is where I think the pro bono piece comes in, right? So let's go back to that. So, somewhere along the path, you meet people and years later they come back to you, and through some strange connection, they're like, hey, can you help me do this thing? Right. Or so-and-so told me that you were the person to help me do this thing. And that happened to me. I helped some friends of mine who are now friends, but weren't friends at the time. We'd been distant colleagues many, many years prior. And he was launching a clinic, and he's like, I don't know how to do the marketing and PR side of it. And so he was coming to me as that expert, and I did a ton of pro bono work because I knew that I was going to be able to add so much value to what they were doing. And I also believed in it. I was really excited about it. I loved the guys. I believed in what they were trying to do. So that matters too, right?
It does.
But that pro bono work that we did together, it's just different because they were so grateful for me donating myself and my experience. And that in turn reminded me what I was really good at doing. And it built more of that confidence in me to just say, I can do this, right? Like, I'm really stinking good at this.
It was a huge success. Just share really quick what happened after you helped them.
Yeah. So I got a news story and like local news, and it was just like business out the door.
Doesn't happen very often, by the way. That's huge.
Well, and it was about leaning into finding the story that journalists would be interested in, serving that story. And it was literally like the phone couldn't ring fast enough with local reporters wanting to cover the story, which is, I just felt very satisfied, and I was reminded that I'm really good at this. And so I think when you can when you can volunteer yourself, when you can volunteer your time, when you can do pro bono things for people that you're passionate about, and you have passion for, it builds that confidence so that when you do fail, it's like you're a little bit more confident than you were the day before, right? So the failure doesn't bring you to your knees. It's just this sort of blip where you're like, okay, well, that didn't fully work out, but it doesn't mean I suck, right? Like, that's where we go. When we fail, we're like, I need to go eat ice cream and sit in the dark for 7 hours because I'm fat and I suck, right?
Yes. And so I might as well get fatter.
Yeah. And which makes no logical sense. And so when you've built up that self-worth and that self-confidence, and when you have others telling you how amazing your skill that you've brought to their little existence is, it's easier. And so I just really think, donate your time. The money will come. It's a confidence builder. And I have probably
a skills builder.
100%. I've probably done more pro bono work, and I get it, right? Like, you think if the person can't do this, then you should be charging for this because that's the value of you. And if you're not charging for it, blah, 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 la, 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 la. I get it. Every pro bono client that I have had has brought me paying business. And so, yeah, that's just my little plug for nobody's ever said, man, my only regret is I wasn't generous enough. Like, be generous, right? Like, be generous with your time, with yourself, with your knowledge. And it will sort of add fuel to that confidence tank where when you fail, you're like, okay, that was a thing. Like, we're fine. It's just a little setback. It's not, I don't have to go, exhaust the store of all the Ben and Jerry's. Like, we're good. I'm going to go eat an apple and I'm going to get back on the computer.
Just going to get back to work.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. I love that. And it just reminds me, even just service in general, how much it can affect your overall well-being, even not in a business sense.
That's right.
I remember my friend who went to a rehab in downtown Phoenix. It was service. You literally served the homeless, all day long. You lived with them, you served, you helped them learn skills, you made food, you know, and it was just like, that's how you get out of your own brain, is to go find someone to help. Because that really helps you change the way you think, change like your confidence. I totally agree. But also just changing that mentality of how much money can I make? How many clients can I get to pay me? How much can I serve? We all have extra time. I mean,
we do.
Everybody has a couple hours a week that you could donate to somebody, to something. And how much that changes your brain. And even if that one thing doesn't actually bring you business like it did you, I believe it will too. It's just how it works. The more you give, the more you're going to get. It's just how it is. It just is. And if you just realize that, give, and give some more, it all comes back around tenfold. Don't even worry about it. I know that's hard when you first start a business and you don't have any income coming in, but it's also not hard because you don't have that many things to do. Yeah. So why don't you fill it up giving?
That's right.
And I really want people to realize how important that is. I'm so glad you brought that up.
It is. You can't outgive God, is what I say. And yeah, it's like your listeners are saying, well, that's easy for you to say. Like, I don't have a paycheck coming in, right? If I quit all this and do it. And I get that. And that's why you have to be smart and strategic about all the things you're doing. We were a 2-income family. I had some grace. We had savings, you know, so I wasn't walking into it. And that's important too. You don't want to put your family at risk because, you know, you decide that you're going to go bake the world's best cakes when you've never baked a cake in your life, right? Like, you have to be smart about what it is, like the value you can add and the product or service that you can create. But giving is huge. And, I think that, again, the giving of my services in that experience, in that window of time, it was, you know, a year's time, was probably some of the most rewarding, because the people you're doing it with know that you're doing it for free. And they're so appreciative and just so in awe of the talent that you can bring. And it's just a win-win. You're sharpening your skills, to your point. You're feeling good. You're building your confidence. You're reminding yourself what you're really good at. People are reminding you what you're really good at. And then they turn around and they bring you paying customers. You know, like, it's just
brilliant.
It's not transactional like that. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's
not why you do it. It just happens not why anyway. You do it. It just is. It just does happen. I want people to realize that. I'm a true believer. And let's talk about just a little bit, just to set up some expectations about what it is to run your own business. And a lot of people have this, like, that Instagram highlight reel kind of feeling about what it's like. I'm going to make $1 million in 1 year, and I'm going to buy a jet, and I'm going to have a Lambo, because you see these 22-year-olds have done it. And you can, you know, make $1 million in 6 weeks with my program, you know, and they've got the fake picture of the jet. It's just photoshopped, you know, by the way. Sorry guys, if you thought it was real, it's not real.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry. And it's easy to think that, and then you start something and it doesn't take off right away. Like that little meme that says, think entrepreneur is like this line. And what it really is that's right. All the way back down, below the down part, below the starting part. And then it goes all the way back, and then maybe up here. Nope, back down. Like, just set up the expectations, like the kind of the roller coaster, and like just kind of how it is, so that when people are starting out, they have more realistic expectations. Yeah.
For 99.99% of us, it's still going to be hard. You're not, that's why I say every day. That's why I say, be drawn to something, don't be running away from something, because the hard is still going to be there. It's just a different hard. So you don't want to work for somebody. That's great. You want to work for yourself. That's still really hard.
Yes.
You know, you have to be, you are the accountant, and you are the biz dev VP, you know, and you're the CEO, and you're the janitor, and you're the marketing, and you are the worker bee. And, you know, my company,
the IT guy.
Yeah. You're the IT guy. There's nobody to call. So my company was just me. I didn't want to get to the place where I was hiring more people on. Like, that's not the growth that I wanted for myself. So I was everything. And that is hard. And you have to balance your time. You have to remember to like set money aside for taxes. You know, you have to get your paper. Like there are things that you have to file with the
file
state.
Stuff.
And you have to file stuff
at certain times.
Fill things out and quarterly. I don't know.
Forms and crap.
Forms and things. And then you also have to do the work so that you're delivering to the client what they're paying you to deliver. And so I would just say it's not just walking into a rosy, you know, life is going to be grand. You're just going to drop everything and go to your kid's soccer practice. Like some days I worked longer than I did at the corporate job. You know, there's more at stake. The buck stops with you. It starts with you. That's why it's incredibly important to go toward the things that you're really passionate about, I think. And if it's PR and marketing, writing, communications like it is for me, that's great. If it's baking cakes, that's amazing also. You know, just love what you do because it's hard and there's hard everywhere. So, you know, even money aside, like just the management of the business is hard. And you do have to be kind of that biz dev person for yourself. Like, how do I, if a client does say, eek, times are tough, I gotta, you know, this is it, this is our last month, you gotta have a backup plan. So you have to be strategic. So you're sort of constantly developing business, but balancing that, right? Like you can't take on the client now because it's just you and you don't have enough. So the timing has to work, right? And you have to deliver the work and you just have to balance all of it. And so it's amazing and it's incredible and it's the best thing I've ever done professionally, but it's not easy. And so you have to just, I would say, just love it, you know, because I'll say it this way. It's a lot easier to just shut down your computer at the end of the day because you're working for somebody else and your job for the day is done and they have the big things to kind of deal with. Like when it's your own business, like you have the big things to deal with. You don't just shut it down.
You have all the things to deal with.
More to do for the business, you know.
You can't.
So, and I don't mean to suggest that it isn't also wonderful because it is. It's amazing and it is wonderful. And I do get to go watch my kids play soccer. But it's not a path where you think it's all of a sudden going to be so easy and there's just going to, like, I'm just going to be swimming in money. That just isn't the reality of what it is.
It's not. But it's beautiful and you can work from wherever you are.
You can. And you know, here's the difference. We've all worked 3-4 hours a day where we're like, ugh, right? Like, ugh, it was so, ugh, I hated it. I don't like the people I was with. There's no purpose in it. I need a glass of wine. Right. And then when we're doing what we love, it's like you work 10 hours a day and you're going, like that was the best day, right?
So
like
crazy.
That was the best work day ever because I look at all the stuff I did, you know, or look at all this greatness that I created or managed or juggled or
helped somebody with, and you got them on the news, and that's so that's so exciting and so fulfilling to do it for you and not for somebody else who has a different, you know, who's their name on a building that you've been working for, and they get all the credit sometimes.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think it's so fulfilling. It's truly the American dream, you know. I know I hate that's so cliche.
But
again. It is. And people also forget that it's not available to you in a lot of different countries.
Right.
I think a lot of people who have never been to another country, have never left this country, was born in this country, they have no idea. And I just like to remind people, if you haven't been out of this country, you really don't know how lucky we are that this is available to literally anybody. That comes here or becomes a citizen or was born here.
And we are the backbone of America. Small businesses,
I agree.
Backbone of America. And to your point about giving, volunteering, giving, you know, if you haven't been out of this country, it provides a perspective that we need to have, right? Like I read this book, it's called Happiness is a Serious Problem. And we spend our lives comparing ourselves to people who have more than we have, and we feel inadequate. Same in business, right? Like I'm going to launch this business and I'm going to be the next like Steve Jobs or, you know, Elon Musk, whatever.
I'm going to have a huge office on Central Avenue and I'm going to have 100 employees and
And I would challenge us all to not compare ourselves to people who have more than we have, but to compare ourselves to people who have less than we have, and really lean into how incredible it is, even if we're not making as much money as we had hoped or that we did when we were working a cushy corporate job. Like, we're still so fortunate and so blessed to be doing work that we love. And that's it, right? Like, I could make more money going to work for a big corporation doing, right? Like,
so could I.
That's not what it's about, because that's not the fulfillment. And I think that God blesses us in ways that we cannot even imagine. And that's that faith, when we're leaning into the talent that he has given us and the passions that we have because we were created by him. And when we lean into that and understand that, man, sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. Oh, I'm so excited you said all of that. It's so true and so powerful. Just leaning into what we have, what gifts do we have, take an inventory of that. What talents do we have? And remembering those talents and skills when we have a bad day and we bomb a pitch, whatever. We're all going to have bombs of whatever.
That's right.
And really figuring out what your purpose is by leaning into those things. What really lights me up? What do I really want to do? What do I really want to be able to go to all my kids' soccer games? That was a big thing for me. I just was never home when I had my little kids. Like, why did I even have children if they're going to be raised by a nanny? That's not what I wanted. I didn't want this. And, so that's really what it came down to for me. I was able to work from home. That was a long time ago. Everybody works from home now, but nobody did back then, 18 years ago or whatever it was. So I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad that you came here and took the time to drive all the way over here. She lives about an hour from here, so she's a trooper. And I really appreciate you and your wisdom and what you had to offer. And please tell us how people can find you.
So McTheny PR and Communications.
I'll leave the link in the notes, but it's McTheny.
Yeah.
Communications.com.
And there's more information about me on there. And I have Instagram, Facebook, all the things, LinkedIn. And I'd love to, even if it's just, hey, I need some help with this, or again, back to that sort of entrepreneurial ecosystem. Like, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to get started, or I need this nudge, or this is the podcast I needed to hear. Like, that was my nudge, right? Like, that to me, if someone called me and said that, it would be like the most rewarding thing ever, right?
If you need help with anything, you can use either of us, reach out to either of us, and we'd love to help. We'd love paying it forward. And we love helping entrepreneurs.
It's create today, right? Like, one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really what it's about.
It is.
Yeah. Well, thank you. For those listening and watching, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. God bless you. And just remember that you can create whatever you want in your life. Just take it one day at a time. God bless you.